Well, welcome to Defin, Joakim and Furkan. Great to have you here.
Yeah, it's lovely. It's nice to have the podcast in Stockholm for once and have just, one invandrare over there in Belgium.
Is invandrare some kind of like racist, xenophobic bullshit that you're usually coming out of?
Yeah, exactly.
I heard Sweden's gone a bit like that recently,
Yeah.
It just means immigrant, but it depends on how you pronounce it, right? And which political party you're a member of.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, but it was like one of the first words that Joakim taught me when I first came here.
I had another word.
Yeah, don't say it.
I mean, some people use.
No one uses it.
Well, given that this is a polite society, Defin podcast, we better not use those kinds of words.
No.
Yeah.
Keep it left of center. Come on. Right. Okay. So maybe we can do you guys in alphabetical order because that's as good as any. Reverse alphabetical order. Actually, we do it because I know that I spoke to you at the Heart of Closure, Joakim. Is it Joakim or Joakim, by the way?
Joakim in Swedish, but Joakim is the Swedish pronunciation.
Joakim.
Use any of those other two. The second one, Joakim.
Joakim.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Joakim. Okay, it's like Joakim Phoenix kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think that's Joaquin, but whatever.
Yeah, it was my joke, dude. Good damn it. Okay.
We need to.
Okay. Joakim Phoenix. What?
We're off to a great fucking start.
How did you get out of acting and into closure frameworks?
Yeah, actually check this up because to get the years correct. So it was. It started in 2012. So I attended a conference, J Focus, and one of the talks there was by Neil Ford from ThoughtWorks.
Oh yeah.
And he presented closure for the audience, mostly Java developers.
Sure.
And it was pretty interesting, but I had a hard time to. I mean, I didn't really like the code he presented. It was alien to me, kind of. I couldn't get it, but it was actually. I thought, can this really be right? And it looked like that. So I wasn't used to it. So, but and then also a few people at work used closure. So I was playing around with it.
Yeah. Where were you working at the time?
At the Swedish Postal Lottery as a consultant.
Okay. Yeah. I worked with a guy, Christopher, I think, who worked at Postcode Lottery. Was he one of the...
Yeah, how he was one of the guys who played around with, and also James Trunk and another guy also. So a few people were interested in that.
Okay. I didn't realize James worked there because I also worked with him later at a different company.
Mm-hmm. No, he worked there. And he was also a closure enthusiast. So I started to play around with it. And like a year later, I tried to build a Tetris program that I had implemented in like C++ and Java and Scala.
All right.
So I thought, okay, this is a good way to learn it, to implement it in Closure. So I did that, and I blogged also about it a little bit. So like a blog series. So that's when that was maybe my first hobby project in Closure. And so yeah.
And how did you find the comparison between, like, let's say Scala was the modern JVM language, and then you did the closure stuff. So you probably had a fairly recent set of comparisons there. Or very close
so I was very enthusiastic about Scala because that was the new it fixed all the problems with Java at that time.
Sure, we all had a Scala phase. It's okay.
Yeah, I was enthusiastic for about a year, but then I digged deeper into it, and it just felt too complicated for my taste.
Yeah.
And then I did Clojure at the same time a little bit, and then I switched over to Clojure. So it just was more beautiful in my mind. Simpler, definitely simpler. So I remember we did that at that company. Several of us did that course, Scala course, functional thinking. I think it was.
Yeah, the one at the
Martin Odersky.
Yeah, I did the same one. Yeah,
it's a good one.
We all did. Yeah.
It was a really good thing. I think we should have something similar in Clojure.
Yeah, it would be interesting if Scala did any of that kind of shit, of course. Yeah, but
yeah. So that was maybe the first, mind-boggling thing. Write a set function without using the set function. Implement simple things in a functional way. It was really pretty hard at that time. So even though I had programmed in like C and used functions, I hadn't used higher order functions at that time. So it took some time to get used to it. But then when I understood how to use it, suddenly everything became so easy to implement and write code.
Yeah. I think that course, if I remember rightly, the complicated question was how to make a change counting machine in Scala. That was like the final exercise, I think. The final boss,
Yeah.
And it was quite it was a bit of a head screw because again, you're kind of used to having lists of things that you can keep in a state and variables that you can overwrite and stuff like that. So obviously it was a mind fuck to change that. But I was asking you about like what the different, like how you found like coding Tetris specifically in Clojure versus Scala, because it's kind of like an interesting challenge. I guess you're using Swing or something like that.
Sorry, I used sorry.
You're using like Swing or something like that.
Java
UI or Java FX. Yeah.
Oh, at that time, I don't actually. This was 2013. I don't remember. Actually, I think I was now I remember. I used. I think it was called Java 2D or something. It was really.
Oh yeah. So it's part of the Swing thing then, basically. Yeah.
It was. I think it was an early thing that was shipped with Java 1. Really early version.
Oh right. Okay.
Yeah. So I just did my own double buffering stuff because I just needed a bitmap and I wanted to plot pixels on that bitmap and do double buffering.
Yeah. Okay.
So I wanted a really smooth experience. So I can maybe say something more, a little bit more about that, because I did a lot of that stuff in like assembly and C and low-level programming many years ago. That was kind of my hobby because before I came to Java and Clojure, I did a lot of low-level programming. So I was used to taking control of the hardware, kind of turn off multitasking on the Amiga when I programmed Amiga. That was the first instruction in assembly you wrote: turn off multitasking, and then you just was doing everything you wanted.
Yeah. You showed me one of your renderings on that Amiga.
Yeah,
Remember you were rendering something. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really. I liked that. It was simpler. Much simpler, everything. Even though it's really hard to write code in assembly, I still think it was. You didn't have to learn a lot of frameworks and stuff.
We'll come to that later.
Okay, maybe that.
Yeah, we'll put a pin in that one. All right. So, Furkan, what about yourself? What's your kind of like journey over to the parentheses?
Right, you don't even have a glass of wine in front of you tonight.
I know. I'm teetotal tonight, in full respect, you know.
Yeah. No, but
it's a very big glass of vodka.
Nice. Yeah. All right. My journey is like I didn't see those times that Joki coded assembly on Amiga. Unfortunately, I wish I saw, because they look beautiful when I look at it. Many don't appreciate these days. But my professional programming career started 2013. So before that, I studied computer science, and there it was interesting. One of the professors was obsessed with Lisp. So he taught, like, the whole course was taught in Java. So, like, very indoctrinated. This is the way to code. There's no other way. And there was this one guy, he was showing us everything in Lisp. So I got one introduction to computer science from him with MIT Scheme. And then later I took a programming language concepts course, again, MIT Scheme. And then we wrote a programming language using MIT Scheme and an IDE so that you can type and then visualize things. And it looked like Java, the programming language created. The syntax was Java.
Oh, that's cursing, isn't it? That's curses, you know?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Object-oriented programming language in Scheme.
Yeah. But it's too easy to implement a Lisp in Lisp. You know, you need a challenge, like implement a crappy programming language like Java. Sorry, I'm just throwing the hate, you know, starting out.
Yeah, but we all share, I guess, that hate, so it won't work.
Actually, funny thing is that, like, I think we've talked about this before, is like Java nowadays is, you know, compared to something like Scala, like it was like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, Java is sufficiently, you know, powerful now that you can. It's kind of weird, actually, because I think until Clojure 1.12, it was even, you know, it was simpler to do some things in Java than it was in Clojure. So it's, you know, so I think the Java people have done a really great job in the last couple of years in terms of like very, very frequent and regular releases, being innovative, you know, taking things on. Anyway, so I'm, you know,
maybe I should answer your question you had before. To compare my experience with the Java and the Clojure version.
Yeah.
You asked me about the Tetris program.
Oh, yeah. I thought you were avoiding it. I thought you were dodging it.
No.
I asked you 3 times and you were like, oh, I'm not answering that shit. You know, just moving on, you know?
Talking about everything else. Okay. No, it was actually, I think if you write a really small program, like a little tiny program like that, 500 lines of code, then have a board class, a piece class, blah, 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 with a handful of functions. That I have no problem with that. I mean, and also that is I mutated stuff because to speed up, I had to use in-place mutation, just like for optimization reasons. So that it didn't look ugly in my eyes, at least. But then what I have problems with is those enterprise systems. They are always a mess.
Yeah. But yeah, so sorry, we tangented as usual. So Furkan, you were saying you implemented Java in MIT Scheme, as you do, you know.
Yeah, why not?
Young men in university messing about.
Yeah. And then, like, at the time, like, everyone hated MIT Scheme in the class because they were like thinking, what? Exactly. But like they were thinking, like, what? Like, I never seen this before in other places in the internship we do. Like, no one uses this and all that. And then that was true for a while for me as well. Like, after the school, like, I did mobile programming for 3 years, Objective-C. So,
right.
And then, like, I was tired of, like, I was in Istanbul back then, tired of the city and all that, looking for a job. And then this one guy offered me a job in this place called Stockholm. And I just came here and started writing Java again. Yeah. Beautiful. And then I think it was like after 2 months, James joined that team, James Trunk. And then he planted the idea that like, oh, there's this programming language called Clojure. It's a Lisp, it's a functional Lisp, runs on JVM. Do you want to give it a try? I was like, wow, this is actually real. Like people use Lisp in the real world. Amazing, I'll try it. And then we hired Joakim at the time. And then my Clojure journey started.
Yeah, that's my nickname.
Yeah,
Joakim.
Joakim.
Yeah, and then like 2016, the Clojure journey started pretty much until now. So I guess like the difference was like I was a bit more like empty brain, not indoctrinated with all these different like object-oriented ideas and frameworks and all that. So yeah, it was easier for them to convince me.
I like to keep an empty brain at all times, but it's getting filled up with slop recently. But yeah.
So yeah, that's how I got to know Clojure, and then wrote many projects since then in Clojure.
So you're lucky in many ways. You know, you've sort of your professional experience has mostly been in Clojure. So yeah, well, good luck. Yeah, great stuff.
Thanks.
What about you, Josh? No, I'm kidding. Okay.
Everybody's heard my origin story on this podcast a million times.
No, it's just because we've got 3 Swedes, you know, 3 people from 3 people in Sweden. They're not all Swedes. Yeah.
Well,
only one actual Swede, I think.
I've got a passport, mate. You know, I'm Swedish, as I say.
Yeah, me too. Although Joakim wouldn't agree with us, probably he thinks we're not Swedes.
Oh, man. Speaking of right-wing politics, here it comes.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So...
Just for the record, Joakim is joking and laughing about this, so it's okay, you know?
Yeah.
He's not sitting there fuming.
Yeah, so no, but I also came to Clojure through MIT Scheme, though I took a few detours along the way before I finally found Clojure. But so was it at this job where you and James and Joakim were working that Polylith was born? And like, how did that come about? I mean, what the hell is Polylith anyway, other than a cool T-shirt that 2 of you are wearing?
Only 2 people in the world wears.
I bet James has one too, doesn't
he? Yeah.
Actually, they're kind of like annoying because we should have had our Deafen T-shirts on, Josh, really.
Should we go change, Ray?
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
Just
right, here
you 2 talk amongst yourselves.
By the magic of podcasting, we're now wearing them. Okay.
That's true, yes.
So Polylith anyway.
Yeah. So do you want the short story or the long story?
We've got time, you know? So don't worry about it, you know?
Yeah, so maybe I was thinking maybe I should explain a little bit the years before. Could be interesting.
I think always like these kind of things, especially like a framework like Polylith, which is not, you know, it's not a small thing. It's you're asking people to jump in to something. You know, you're asking people to jump in to buy into some beliefs, aren't you? Buy into some kind of concepts.
It's actually
so usually those kind of things are like they come from some frustration or from some pain or some wars that you've been in. so I'm happy I'm happy for you to, like, you know, wax a bit lyrical about all of those kind of problems that you've faced. You know?
But he will start from like we are all stardust, and you know, there was a cloud.
Not with a big bang.
My mummy and daddy loved each other very, very much.
But just for the record, like we didn't sit down and then decided to invent a new architecture. Like we were just like losing, or Joakim was losing his sanity on the code that we wrote, and then like he was hating me a bit. So that's how he came up with this.
Okay. Yeah, so I think so where should I start? Maybe, so I remember I worked at a company, so in 2005 we had something called an architecture year. So at that time I programmed in Java, of course. So and then I started to read those books, The Gang of Four, Domain-Driven Design, and started to read a lot of blog posts and started trying to understand things. What is design, kind of, or I don't see myself as an architect, but I'm more like trying to solve problems. So yeah, but some kind of designer of software, I think I am.
But just to put a pin in that for a second, don't you think, like in other fields at least, architects are trying to solve problems? Maybe we've got the wrong name for like architects in computing. But
I know there is always a debate. What is an architecture? What is design? Is domain driven? Let's say like some design patterns or whatever. Everything you do, the main problem is to make things simpler. I think that's our biggest enemy in software.
Sure.
That things are complex. So, and there are, of course, a lot of other kind of non-functional issues also.
Dysfunctional, we call them. Yeah.
Dysfunctional, yeah. So at least, and then at some point, I was trying to. I thought it must be what's called. I've lost the word. Like in math, you have those basic principles where you build
axioms.
Yes, axioms. There must be rules somewhere. It's because when I read about, especially in the object orientation world, you shouldn't chain method calls and stuff like that. That's a bad pattern, or you should always encapsulate everything. If you can't operate on data, you should always encapsulate. And I thought, can this really be true? It was. It didn't feel right to me, everything out there. So I was thinking a lot around those things. So and it took maybe, I don't know, 10 years to come up with. And during that time, I was trying to come up with some theory. It wasn't a theory, but it was a model or whatever you call it. Just for me, it was just because I wanted to understand those things. I felt that I couldn't find anything. Of course, I could pick things here and there that was, okay, I agree with that, I disagree with that, and so on. So I tried to find a model that made sense in my head. So I was doing that for maybe 10 years, and then I came also up with those. I wrote that blog post, the original complexity, where I tried to explain those ideas. Yeah. So it was a long journey, and that at some time there, when I worked with Furkan and James, I came up with this Lego idea. It was actually I had thought about this problem that you should be able to write code in a way that you can. It doesn't matter where you execute it. If you execute it on your local machine or in a server, it should be that easy. You shouldn't be forced to rewrite the code just because how you execute it. That was a question or something I tried to solve for years. And then
you must have heard of Docker though, Joakim.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it's like ship your local machine.
Exactly. Works on my machine, so here's my machine.
Exactly.
Must have heard of Docker. Hilarity ensues.
Yeah,
I think it was a combination of different ideas. So sorry.
Yeah. I mean, like that was the reason that Jocke pretty much came up, or maybe fast forwarded his thinking came up with this idea, because like we were about to write a system with microservices and like, you know, like deploying all these and stuff, and we were like just 3 people in the team.
Yeah. Don't do that.
Yeah, and then like the problem we were trying to, I mean, the problem was maybe a little bit big, but the users of it was like very small. You know, like no one needed like 20 services for that, because there were like 20 people. We could have had 1 server per person, but I mean, it
you could have
didn't
literally
need.
shipped the Docker image out to each of their PCs.
Yeah, and Joki described this as like, oh, like he was telling me like, oh, you are like a new developer or like up and coming developer wants to put microservices into a CV, you know,
CV building activity.
CV building activity at the company.
CV driven development.
Yeah. And then like I built it quite good in the beginning. Like we had like, I think 5 services or something. And then Joki was having nightmares in his computer. Like, how do I run these at the same time on my machine? Or like, oh, if I change one of them, how do I deploy that jar to somewhere? So, and then the others can get it. And in his mind, this was unacceptable. Like, then, yeah. He started being faster.
Development experience was not good.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's what everyone says, isn't it? That like microservices are like, they're great if you've got 1,000 of them, but they're and only because then you can like focus on 1 or 2 of them, some cluster that's local. But if you've got like 2 or 3 of them, they're just total pain in the ass, you know, because as soon as you go from a monolith to any more than a monolith, you kind of like, you're just hitting all of the problems of coordination. And I remember that, by the way, just Joakim, I read your blog post, and the thing that you the word that you put in that post was coordination. That was the problem. So maybe you can like tell us a bit about that, because that was clearly a motivation for you.
Yeah, so I don't believe that dependencies, to use the word dependency and say that to have a dependency is something bad. That's not true. And I have a couple of examples in that blog post. For example, I mentioned like if you depend on a Java virtual machine, that's not bad. I mean, and because also it changed in a way that it doesn't break things.
Yeah.
So it's like then you're safe.
Yeah.
So you can say, oh, I depend on this. That's bad. We need to abstract that away or whatever. I mean, that's not always the solution. So it's the coordination that is the bad guy here. So, or that when you can't automate things. So that's what you try to do. You try to do things in a way that the computer can do the work for you. So
yeah, but as soon as you go into microservices, you have a coordination problem, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I worked especially in one project that had, I don't remember, it maybe 50 services. So, but it was, a lot of code duplication there everywhere. And they had the same library. So they shared code by using libraries, internal libraries. And they were in different versions. So they could fix a bug here. And then some other team upgraded to the latest version 1 month later. And it didn't even compile sometimes, or it didn't work at least. So yeah, it's not easy. So yeah, it wasn't.
Okay, so moving on now. So what were the kind of like foundational ideas of Polylith?
Yeah, I think it was it's the Lego metaphor that you have like so you have each Lego brick lives in its own source and test source directory. They have their own source kind of, director, and they have okay. But what was the core idea you asked for? Maybe it's a Lego
because
metaphor.
Lego is like people have been talking about components since the 1980s, you know. And everyone's been using Lego as a kind of concept of, you know, pluggable components and stuff like this. So what was different, or why did Closure need Polylith? Because, you know, like Rich Hickey in his simple, easy made simple.
The other way around.
Whatever.
Simple made easy. Simple made
I
simple.
I nearly went for simple made easy, but I thought, no, that can't be right.
That doesn't make any sense.
What's this guy smoking? Anyway, he's talking about like knitted models versus Lego models. So you know, it was clearly something that he'd thought about. So just, I mean, I'm just saying, like, also Lego's Danish, not Swedish, so surely it was IKEA. Come on.
But if we called it like IKEA, like blocks, then we would need to like ship documentation with it, like step by step.
Right. You don't believe in documentation.
It could be really bad documentation, though. That's apparently completely acceptable. Yeah, it's fine.
You have to put them
self-assemble.
You need to assemble them yourself.
So this is the code. Work it out. You know?
All right. So, but you were saying, so Furkan was so nice to give you, you know, 5 Docker images for his microservices, but that wasn't good enough for you. So you needed Legos instead. So like, was Polylith born from that exact frustration?
Yes, it was. And also you could add my ideas I had that had been going on in my head for some years.
But like
mix.
That time, like when I annoyed Joakim enough, at that time he also switched his shampoo. That's what we believe with James, because like he was coming in the morning with these new ideas, like really good ideas, and then he was saying like, like I was in the shower this morning, and then this idea. So there must be some chemicals involved there. It's like speeding up the process somehow.
It's that Bolivian pearl shampoo that did it, I'm sure.
But I think it's I think it was the development experience. I really wanted to have this monolithic feeling that you have access to all your code and you can refactor your code, you can debug your code. I mean, even though if you have 20 services, the neat thing with Polylith is that you can have one single development experience. You can refactor if 2 components are put side by side and A is calling B. You can refactor the name of the function in B, and it will. I mean, it's so it has the feeling of a monolith, but it is a decoupled. It's like more like a box of Lego bricks. So that's the feeling of it. You when you work with it, so you get the best of both worlds. You could say, So that's what I think that was what I was aiming for.
So maybe you could like help us to contrast, for example, Git submodules versus Polylith.
Okay.
I guess maybe
those Lego bricks. Or maybe you can say.
No, I was gonna say like one thing is like, I mean, a lot of ideas that we baked into Polylith. I mean, they are maybe not individually our ideas, all of them. We of like also picked a lot of good ideas that was existing out there, and then put in one place. And we spend like a lot of time on like naming them and like finding these like metaphors or like ways to communicate that idea. And also like one thing was like Joakim said, like making that development experience really good. Like no matter how big a system you are building, you should have the best development experience. Feedback loop should be fast. You should be able to access REPL, so without needing to start 20 of them. So those were like the basic ideas underneath. And then also like we wanted to still keep from that microservices idea, like decoupling these like areas of responsibility, right? So this is a domain, it should be separate, and we should be able to like understand it in isolation without isolating it into a service. So those were like kind of basic foundations in the process that we came up with Polylith.
Yes, I think that's the one thing they got wrong. I mean, if you think you can have many small services in separate repos, I mean, of course, if you have, I read a few years ago that I read a blog post about this, that Nubank, they had at that time 700 services. Then I think it's probably, then you probably would have, maybe you could have 10 Polylith workspaces or something. You don't have one single for all the services. I don't believe in that, but I'm just saying that sometimes maybe you have, that could work because you have a huge organization and it's just, everything is just so huge. But in most places, they only have like maybe 100,000 lines of closure code or whatever, or maybe 1 million lines of code. But if you have 50 million lines of code or whatever, I don't know, 10 million lines of code, then you maybe have to split it up a little bit.
Well, I think the thing that matters is not the size of your code base, but it's the size of your development organization. Because for me, the reason to have services is because I have different teams. Like, you know, if I'm a small company and I have 10 developers, like I think Monolith is a fantastic idea. Like it, because of what you were talking about, the development experience. So I'm just wondering, because you said best of both worlds. So I'm wondering, like, you know, you're talking about Polylith gives you access to, you know, multiple services as if it's, or like in a seamless development experience. But so you can then deploy these things in different services. Is that how it works?
Yeah. So you take, let's say you have 100 components, and and 30 of them goes into this service, 25 goes into another service, and so on. But when you develop things, you have a development environment, so where you have access to all those components. So they act as a monolith, but they are separate. But you put them into one place so that they can act like a monolith. So that's how it works.
And then does Polylith also take care of defining how these components get deployed into different services? Or is that kind of outside of the scope of Polylith?
Yeah, it's outside. I mean, what you do is that you put together, so you get all the code you need. But then you have to build a jar or whatever. All that stuff we don't take care of. But we explain how you can do it in the documentation.
Yeah, and like Polylith takes you until you have the class path basically with what you need, and then you decide what you want to do with that afterwards, like how you want to deploy it, where do you want to put it into, do you want to put it into Docker or whatever. We don't care about that, because we also try to keep the scope as small as possible, and we didn't want to create a framework, right? So like all of this Polylith idea, you can do it without any tooling from us, like without our code.
Right.
So because it's just like telling you where to put things and how to name things. So it's more like like recipes of how to write good code by Joakim Tengstrand.
But also when you talk about people that use it today, several of them have told me that we wouldn't go this Polylith path without the tooling we have, because it adds so much to everything. It validates the code, and it can test the code incrementally. So they have a test command that if you just change one component, it calculates what was affected by this change, and it tests only that.
Right.
So that increases the feedback loop both locally and on the CI server.
So is the idea just so because architecturally, if we go back to kind of architecture again, one of the things that we talked about was like not having dependencies and stuff like that. So how do you ensure, and maybe this is all documented, but it's a generic question anyway. It's how do you ensure that on the one hand you have like a component that works on its own, and on the other hand, components that work together?
So they kind of never. We decided to do it like this. So you make sure that it works in the development project. We call it a project. Those places where you put components, we call them projects. So in the development project, that component has access to all other components in your workspace, or your whole code base. We call the whole code base a workspace. So that means when you test that component, where you have test code, it will have access to those components that you decide to go into, and that's pretty often all the components. But there are sometimes you have okay, let's skip that for now. But you have pretty much all components, and every component have access to every other component. So in my head, it looks more like the central Maven repo with libraries. You can think of any library there. They can have access to at least all the other libraries further down, you could say, because you can't point upwards, because then you get circular dependencies.
So maybe it's a question then, because maybe it's something that's somehow not clear to me, because obviously when we have a monolith, if I write a component, I have access to everything else because it's on the same class path. So what's the difference? How do you make sure that people aren't just using things on the class path in the development environment that then you ship and aren't available in the deployment environment? So
that's
maybe it's how these components actually work is something. The boundaries need to be I need to understand that a bit better.
Yeah, so each component has something we call an interface. It's not the same type of interface that you have in object orientation. This is just a namespace. Normally it's just one single namespace with a name that you just call that namespace interface, but you can call it some IFC, for example, or something. But let's say interface, that's a single namespace. Yes. And that's the only namespace other components are allowed to access.
Oh, okay. So by convention,
you don't expose the whole. Yeah, it's a convention, you could say. Yeah. But it's about encapsulation, and that means that you can replace a component with another component as long as they implement the same interface.
Okay, so interface is like your kind of API layer.
Yeah. But they live together with each component. In their source directory, you have your namespaces, and one namespace has the name interface.
Okay, and then by convention, other things can call to that interface. And if they're on a different machine, then is that interface somehow exposed over some protocol?
No, we have another type of component. We don't call them components because they are called bases. They are also like Lego bricks, but they don't have an interface. Instead, they have a public API. For example, if you have a REST service, you will need to create a base to expose that REST API. And you put that code into a base. That's another kind of Lego brick.
Mm-hmm.
And then what that base does is that it delegates to those interfaces or components through their interfaces. So when you create a service, you just put a base into the project and then a bunch of components. And in deps.eden, that means that you have a deps.eden file that refers to one base and a set of components with this local root syntax. So that's everything. And then you have all the code you need. You doesn't need to do anything more than that.
Okay, so I'm trying to understand where the interface. What's the point of the interface in that case, other than as a kind of way to prevent other, like an architectural boundary? Is that the idea, that the interface is an architectural convention that says, okay, in a Polylith application, if you want to share some functionality, you put it in the interface, and that's assumed to be a stable place. And if you put it in the interface, then you're kind of committing to some kind of like backward compatible behavior or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, like we wanted to make it like the problems arise in these big monorepos when the code is very tangled, right? So everything is calling everything. We wanted to solve that in the first place with microservices, right? Like separate everything so they have one. So like the idea
you can't possibly share a class path then,
Exactly. So what we wanted to do, okay, like let's put a layer to those components. So that's only allowed from the other components. So like the touch points between these components. Mm-hmm. So it becomes not tangled anymore, the code base. So you can follow.
So your tools then prevent, like, if I have a bit of code and I call directly your function, your tools will say, "Ooh, no, that's not permitted."
Yeah, exactly. It's going to give you like which component is causing that, which namespace, and like you will be able to fix it. And this goes same with like the other question, like when I take maybe 30 components and put them into a project, how do I know like I put all the components? The tool tells you like you missed these 5 components.
Right, okay.
So the tool helps with that, and then tool also helps with testing because we do static code analysis of the entire workspace, so we know actually like what's going on. So we can even do things like you change one part of the system, let's say like 2 components. We know like which components change, but also we know like which projects are affected by that change. So it only run tests that actually affect like this code change affects.
Right. That makes sense. And do you have editor integration for that as well? So it sounds like something maybe you would want feedback on, like if I'm, banging along in Emacs and I call some component that I wouldn't have access to at runtime, am I going to get yelled at immediately?
I mean, you have access to everything because you have all your components. You have access to all it's like working in a monolith in that sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you don't need because you can navigate between components seamlessly.
Okay. So maybe that was the wrong question. Maybe the right question is like, tell me about the tools. Like, what tools do you have, and how do those work? Like, how do I work with them as a developer? Like, let's say that I don't have any code yet, and I want to I've read the Polylith documentation and I'm like, yeah, this stuff is good. I want to get started. Just walk me through, like, how do I get started? And, what is the kind of life cycle for a developer using Polylith?
Yeah, so normally in other projects, at least what I have been doing, or all people I talk to, so what they normally do is that they start with a repository. Well, they think, okay, we need this functionality. Okay, we should put that in a service, and then we need a repo, and then you start to you just add namespaces and code and just coding. But
Sure.
in that repository, you start to create your service. But in Polylith, you always start with a component. So you think, okay, we need some kind of functionality.
Login component is a classic,
login, or
login,
or logging, right? Logging.
Yeah. No, log in. You need to
log in. Okay.
authenticate the user.
Auth. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So then what you do is that you have your development project. That's your kind of development environment already. Let's start from the beginning. So first you download the Poly command line tool and install it, and then you run the create command, and you create a workspace, and you give it a name, and you set the top namespace. So this will be the workspace for everything, and all your components will start with the top namespace. It could be
right,
like if it's in Sweden, se.mycompany could be the top namespace, and then all components will have that top namespace. So then you create a component, and then use the command again for a component, and you give it a name, and then you have your first component, and you would call it login, and then
But what does the tool produce? Is it like some sort of scaffolding tool?
Yeah, it produces a directory with the name of the workspace, and underneath there you have directories, directory called components, directory called bases, and one is called projects, and one is called development. So that's kind of your four directories. So in that, and then if you go into the components directory, you will have a directory there called login.
Right.
And if you go in there, you will have two directories. You have a source directory and a test directory, and a deps.eden file, because this is based on deps.eden. So in that deps.eden file, you will find the configuration that with the source and test directory pointed out. And then and also the development project will also have a deps.eden file that includes this, or actually the tool will tell you need to add this component as a local route to your development deps.eden file. So then you need to do that manually. But then and now you have your first component in your development project. And now you can just run tests, and so you start with a component. At this point, you don't even need to think about how to run this in production. So it could be that you only will run everything as a single service in the end, because that's how your development environment looks like. It looks like a monolith, you could say. So you could deploy it as a single service.
Sure.
It will be a polylith in this world, but it will look like a monolith. Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. So you can just deploy everything in one package if you want to do it like that.
Yeah, you just add all your components. You mirror your development environment in your service.
or you don't even need to think about at this stage, like, do you want to expose this as an HTTP API? Do you want to expose it in a different way? Or do you want to write a CLI tool that has a main function? So you're not thinking that, because you're focusing on first, like, okay, I need a login component. Let's write that functionality first. So think about that later.
You postpone those decisions.
Yeah, because that was my mistake in that project we had with Joakim. Like, I first decided I'm going to go for microservices. So,
right.
Like, I don't know what we're going to build, but it's going to be microservices. Like, why?
Yeah, you start in the wrong end. Instead of adding services when you need them, that's a better. It's a better approach, I think.
Sure, yeah, but I think, I mean, I think, you know, in fairness to you, Furkan, you know, that the sort of industry conventions are like to use microservices these days. So it's always kind of like, it's always good to challenge that and to, you know, and see the downsides of it, like you did, Joakim. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's true also to say that you can use them. I mean, you can have. I mean, what I think what microservices is like, they say that each service you should be able to deploy them individually, kind of. That's the promise. So if you have a lot of service, you use Polylith as a way to organize your code and to encapsulate your functionality. Then you build services. You have one or two or whatever, how many services you need. But they are organized as components. But you say also, but they should comply to what microservices promise to deliver. They should be deployable. How do you pronounce? How do you say? I don't know exactly how to express that, but anyway, so that's, I think microservices was maybe also aimed to be a way to organize code. I mean, to put boundaries around different kinds of functionality. But I think what's hard with that is that both that you need to make those decisions upfront, and also that you get code duplication, and also you can't make them as small as you want. Because if you don't want to have 100 services or 1,000 services, or let's say 100. You don't want that, but you can have 100 components. That's really manageable. That's really
right. So, I mean, that makes perfect sense that you would want to kind of delay that decision as late as possible. So I'm wondering, you know, so let's just say in our example, we've built the login component, we've built, 15 other components, and now I have something that I want to run, in production, not just on my own laptop. What's the step there? Like, do you have tooling for, okay, now make me a service that I can deploy?
Yeah, we call them projects. So then you create a project, and then you go into that project's deps.eden file, and you list the components you want to include in that service. So if that is your first service, it will just mirror the set of components you have in your development environment.
Sure.
But that can change when you have like your fifth service. Then you probably don't have all your components in that project.
Yeah.
So it becomes a service when you build things out of it, but it doesn't need to be a service. It can be something else, some other kind of artifact.
So in terms of tools, if we come back to, you have this CLI tool to help you like construct the services and have a uniform like directory structure and a development setup per component. And so what are the other sort of tools that come with Polylith? Remember, the command line also does them, or is that right? Or is everything basically in this command line tool, or do you have other bits and pieces that are floating around, some sort of libraries
everything
or
is
whatever?
in there.
Sorry?
Everything's
in there. Yeah, okay.
Everything you need. I mean, you have this libs command. It shows you what libraries you use, what libraries each component uses, and what libraries each project uses, and so on and so on. That's the libs command. And then you have the deps command that shows the dependencies across all those interfaces. And you can also, if you
Is
say,
that dependencies
okay, but I want
between the interfaces, like themselves? It's
Yeah,
not like
exactly.
it's not like a deps.eden. It's not a super class of deps.eden. It's to do with the specific Polylith things.
No, it's about the source code. What depends? Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And then you can also say, oh, but I want to see the dependencies for this specific service, because sometimes you can have two components that implements the same interface, and you can use them. You can have one version in development, for example, and another one in one project, and then maybe you could have a third version in another project. But the interface is the same. It's the same. First, you have the top namespace, and then you have that login. That's actually it's often both the component name, the name of the component, and the name of the interface. So it's called login. But then you could have a login extra or whatever. You have another component, but it has the same interface. The interface, you could say, oh, but I want to use the login interface. So then you can swap components, but because the project only knows about the interface, that means the code will not break.
Right. Okay. And in terms of that interface, let's say you have an interface with two methods, but then you remove a method. Does it warn you about
call
this?
Them here. Yeah.
Sorry?
They are functions, not methods here, because
Sorry,
they don't have state.
Okay.
My
bad.
Sorry, we are in the closure world. Come on.
Yeah. Holy shit. Yeah. It's called the interfaces. I get confused.
Yeah. So you have these two objects in your interface, Jokke. What do you do?
Exactly. Yeah. Come on. Two methods in your interface. They're automatic. Blah blah blah. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Okay. So you have two functions in your interface. Okay. God, word police. Honestly.
Sorry.
Woke snowflakes. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. So you have the functions in your interface, and let's say you have two functions. Log in, log out, but then you get rid of one of the functions, log out. So does your tool tell you about this, or does it say, "Oh, hang on, you used to support this"?
that component lives in that development project, and there you have all your components in there. Yeah. So then your code will not compile. Your IDE will tell you. Okay,
so someone has to have called that method, that function.
Yeah.
Okay.
If not, it's not a problem. That would be fine even in a monolith. If you add the two functions, removes one, and the compiler is happy.
Yeah. There's one place that the tool helps. If you have two implementations of the same interface, and then if you change the interface in one of them, then tool detects that and then says, like, you are breaking this contract here. Like, we have an interface.
Okay. And it's really picky there also, because the name of the arguments needs to be the exact same name. So if it's name and ID, let's say, as input to that function, they need to be name and ID in all your components. And that's a good thing, because then you don't swap them. Let's say they have the same type, then the compiler will not help you. So if they are all both strings or integers or whatever, it will help you. It will say, "Oh, they don't match anymore now."
Well, obviously in Clojure we don't have the types anyway, so
yeah. I was going to say that another mistake here.
Go on, keep up. We're not implementing this in Java, are we?
I don't think we have primitives, or I don't know. Sorry. Now I'm doing that shouldn't do.
Yeah.
So maybe a question for you then, like what kind of systems have you built where you felt like, oh, Polylith really gave us an advantage here? Like, can you tell us a little bit about like, what is the kind of killer use case for the Polylith approach?
That's a question for Furkan because he has built several systems.
I think it's a killer architecture for everything you write in Clojure, I would say.
Nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. People usually ask like, oh, but like I'm gonna do like a very tiny tool. Should I even use Polylith? Like, why? Why bother with the added maybe complexity you could call, like 4 directories instead of just the source? But like usually those projects turn into bigger ones, and it becomes harder to evolve it later on. Like, can you be sure there's going to be just one namespace from the beginning? So I always recommend like start and Polylith because it's not hard. Like poly create, and then you get the source file anyway. So, but like what I built with it is like mainly it was like HTTP services, like with that. And then like in my current company, like we build both front end and back end with it. Like, so we also have a Clojure script Polylith repository. So that was also pretty useful actually, like because like in front end you also have like a lot of like components, like UI components, but also like Polylith components that are like parts of that UI, like different domains. And then you tend to reuse them in different places. Like recently we released a new product which has to maybe your pleasure an AI window that you can chat.
God damn it.
Yeah, but like the thing.
Okay, stop the interview now. Pull a plug.
Yes. Yeah, let's call it was a login UI instead of AI UI.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You
But like
pulled up the nosedive there. Good. Yeah.
How Polylith helped there is like I naturally created that as a Polylith component, and then we put it into our app. Then like my co-founder said like, okay, now we're going to put it inside Microsoft Word as a plugin. The only thing that changes is the entry point, right? Like the base changes, but the component is the same. Like nothing changes there. So like I could reuse that component and then add just like, I don't know, maybe 50 lines of Clojure script code as the base. And then we shipped it as a Microsoft Word plugin. So that was like pretty powerful aha moment for me. And also we had one of these moments, like incidents in the backend API, where like we released something bad, and it was the front end application was like calling an endpoint infinitely. So, and we had nothing we can do to prevent the front end application because it's it's by its nature works offline, so we don't have a way to force it to update, so users need to update it. So we needed to isolate that endpoint. So it was like really easy to create just one base in Polylith and say like this endpoint will be called from this base, and then commit that commit. And now we have 2 services instead of 1. So 2 API services running in 2 different machines. And again, like it took us like less than half an hour to make that split because all the code is already there. We just needed to add a new base, and then the endpoint points to that new base.
So how does the Polylith tooling work with the ClojureScript tooling?
Oh, that's a good question. So, I mean, I've been hacking it for I think now like 2 years almost, and then like when was it? Like I think it was during Christmas time. I was alone at home, and Joakim called. Joakim called me like.
Tell me about that little story, because you were so busy. You had your startup working 80 hours per week, or I don't know.
Yeah.
And I was asking you for help.
Yeah.
And now he answers once per week, or I mean he's busy. I knew you were really, really, really busy. So then after a few months, I just posted in the Polylith Slack channel Is there anyone out there that can help me with this front end stuff? And then, Furkan reached out. Hey, I'm a guy. Like I didn't know him.
Yeah.
Maybe I can help you. I have some years of experience. Blah blah blah.
I've heard of Polylith. Yeah.
I've heard about it.
Yeah.
And then I think he understood that he needed to step in here and help me.
Yeah. It was a good timing because like my wife was away, I was alone at home, like nothing to do. It was Christmas time, so we sat down with Jokke. And like we had before that, I think.
I don't know if this is a happy or a miserable Christmas story, by the way. You know, my wife was away. I was on my own. You know, it almost starts as like suicide note, you know?
Yeah.
But it came good. Okay, that's just this is good to hear.
Totally saved him.
Yeah, exactly. That was the second option.
Okay. It's a Polylith Christmas story. Okay, come on,
Heartwarming.
It's heartwarming,
Yeah.
You're roasting your nuts around a fire. Joakim calls you. Or in this case, the ghost of Christmas past, I suppose.
Yeah. And then
anyway, tell me. Let's get back to the actual story.
Yeah. So there was a long closure script discussion in Polylith repo, like from a couple of years.
2 years or so.
2 years or so. Maybe 3 years. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was like at some point very heated discussion. You know, it happens in open source. Like people become too attached to it, their ideas. But like we felt
everyone can
like
spot a bike shed from a fucking mile away, you know.
But like every time we got this closure script question, and then people come with solutions, right? Like we want to implement it this way, or you should implement it this way.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. And then we look at the solution with Jokke, and then we see like, okay, this is like, doubling the complexity of what we have already. And like, what are we adding in the end? And it's usually nothing. And then we're like, okay, we're not going to do this, like this way at least. So we'll do closure script at some point, but not this way. So we postponed it. We discussed it millions of times with different people. But then this last Christmas, it was like, and also I was trying it in production with like my own tooling. And then like we had this moment where like we realized, but just changing maybe like 100 lines of code, we could support closure script. It was like a revelation.
Except that I have been working for months for all the tooling changes, but the core, I mean, it was enough for use to be useful for Furkan.
What was the essential kind of like what made the penny drop? What was the specific thing that you saw that, this is the thing that we just need to change?
So there was one thing that was like me starting using Shadow CLJS, which has depth-eden support. So it simplifies a lot of things for us because whole Polylith tooling is on depth-eden. So that's one thing. The other thing is like I realized that in the JavaScript world, like you use like npm or yarn or whatever tooling, but I realized like yarn has this concept of workspaces that pretty much mimics what depth-eden does for Polylith with the local roots and all that. So at that moment I realized that okay, like the tooling is there, like we could achieve exactly the same things without changing anything. Right. And then one other thing we solved was like people were too opinionated about like these front-end applications being separate than their backend.
So I think we were also on
we were also on that track for a while. So like we were considering like having two directories in the Polylith workspace. One is called front-end, one is called backend. But then how do you share code between them? Do you add a common? That sounded like you're increasing the depth of the tree. And then are you adding anything that simplifies? This is more like complex, increasing complexity. So like that moment came when I needed to create node backends with our closure script code for some stupid reason. So I
Josh is going to be
started.
very upset with you here.
Yes,
I am. I'm fuming.
yeah. Yeah, so it's because of laziness. We didn't want to implement this CRDTs in ClojureScript. Instead, wanted to use Node. So, long story. We could have another episode for that, but
laziness I support, I guess.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So auto merge for the win, basically.
Yeah. So we needed components that have like both like Java implementation of the same thing and Node implementation of the same thing. And then I thought like, oh, if I add a Clojure C interface to this, they can live in the same component. And then when you run the REPL, if you run it on JVM, it's going to pick the JVM one. And then if you run it on Node REPL, it's going to pick the right one. So they can live actually side by side. There's no problem with that.
Sure.
So that realization made it quite easy for us because throughout this year, Joki refactored our codeways a lot. So there was just one filter in the code that only accepted CLJ and CLJC files. When we added also add CLJS files, everything was working already.
All right, okay. So one-liner, I love it.
Yeah. Here is ClojureScript support. And then I needed to create an example repository to actually show that this works with all this yarn set up and shadow CLJS and all that. And then we refactored the code a bit. So because Joki is obsessed with the CLI tool, like how it print things.
Is it a healthy obsession, Joki, though?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I don't think so. Yeah, many times I said this is nice to have, but yeah, he doesn't like that.
I think actually Furkan needs small, simple tools, and he doesn't use. He maybe use 1% of that poly tool. I don't know, or 5%.
Yeah,
but a lot of other users, they use a lot of functionality. Let's skip that. Yeah,
I use those, but more like our CI/CD pipeline uses them.
Yeah,
and then when there is a problem, they are very useful. Because then you can understand what went wrong. But otherwise, I don't run them on my local. It's just test, poly test.
You just write code.
Yeah. So that's how ClojureScript support came along. So now we have a way you can just mix both languages in the same repo, in the same component. It doesn't matter. You have different components or the same. It was very useful with our schemas, Mali schemas, because then I can share them between both backend and front end. So it helps with a lot of things like that.
Very nice. I mean, I don't know if you've been, and this is kind of maybe it's a kind of stretch question, but I don't know if you've looked at some of the other tools that Borkdude has been looking at, for instance, Skittle, which is a smaller kind of tool.
It looks cool, but I haven't tried it out.
No, me neither.
Yeah. Okay, the reason I ask is because sometimes, especially for relatively simple applications, the nice thing about Skittle is that it doesn't really have any tooling. Is that basically you just write your Clojure script and then it gets essentially interpreted on the fly when it gets provided to the client. And if you're kind of thinking about tooling, then having almost no tooling is really nice.
Yeah. I mean, Polylith is similar. You can use it without tooling. It's
that's how it started. We used it for a year or so without tooling. Maybe more, 2 years. I don't know.
Well, I think you're right. I mean, from what you're telling me, a lot of it's conventions, and then but obviously it's nice if you can have a tool that will help you to make sure that you're living by the thing you're promising yourself, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
Okay. Also, I see it a bit because whenever we talk about Polylith to someone, we get a backlash, either this is not an architecture, and that's usually like a question about the word architecture rather than whether it is an architecture or not. I don't care. Polylith has Joakim has a little bit more strong ideas on that, but
no, I think it solves architectural problems. That's what I think it does.
Yeah.
Then maybe you don't want to call it an architecture, but I don't know.
Yeah, but like another backlash we get is like, oh, like these are like all the conventions that already exists. Like, why should I do Polylith? Then I ask them, do you use those conventions in the right way in your code base? No one does it. Maybe you pick one of them, but not the 3 of them that is actually makes it something. And another thing is like, I think it gives you like if you use Polylith, it gives you a way of communicating about your code base, because we thought about those words a lot, like what is a workspace, what is a base, what is a component project. So all that, like we spent months on that. Me, Jokke, and James sat down like, should we call it component? There are other things that they call themselves components. And then we ended up like
environment we changed from environment to project.
Yeah.
That was actually an idea from James.
Yeah.
He's really good at James Trunk is really good at naming.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, if you basically understand all the conventions that Polylith is implementing, then, and you're doing them, then it doesn't cost you anything, I guess, to use Polylith, because all that Polylith will do is just help you to enforce those things. So there's no, if you already say, well, I already implement all these conventions, say, well, okay, well, what's no problemo, go away. If you don't need any help, go away. I mean, I guess it's at the moment, at least in Sweden, it's still optional to use Polylith, or is it mandatory?
No, they ask at the border control. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me check your laptop.
Yeah. That would be great, but like I think Sean.
Hold on, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah. Sean Corfield was like quite against Polylith in the beginning. Like he was questioning a lot these things, and also like, I mean, he was probably using many of the conventions himself.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay, if you want.
Yeah, just going to interrupt because at that time we had the first lining and based version.
Yeah.
We used symbolic links, and that was actually we didn't like it so much. It worked. Yeah. So lining and symbolic links, and I can understand that maybe he didn't like those things.
Yeah.
But then we rewrote it. Oh, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, we rewrote it, and then then Alex Miller came in at some point when we rewrote it in Eden. He was like, "You're using that 2 steps wrong. Don't do it." Like it was his feedback, pretty much.
All
like,
right, okay.
What you're doing? Don't do it. We're gonna remove it. So,
if you go to America, it's not permitted to have Polylith on your computer.
Exactly. Yeah. But that
I've talked to Doge. It's not allowed.
Yeah, that was a good thing that he pointed out that specific thing, that what you're doing here is wrong, because that made us rethink again from scratch, and then the tool became actually really, really good.
And also, I was in the middle of 2 jobs, so I worked full time. It was more like 80 hours per week for 3 months.
Yeah.
To rewrite that, it was issue 66. I remember.
Yeah.
And that was
2/3 of the way to the magic number. Yeah.
I needed to change it from symbolic links and lining in to depth.eden. And also before we did that rewrite, I was thinking about what to change, what to fix, what other things to fix. So we cleaned it up. It was not just like a migration. It was more like a total rewrite that we fixed all the problems we identified in that first. So we learned a lot about our own idea, you could say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always interesting, isn't it, to see how the tool evolves, like you say, from the way you're using it, the way the tools around you evolving, and then the feedback you're getting from the community.
Yeah. And like we had the same argument with Sean, like, what is this adding? Like, why should I use? And then like we kept saying people like, just start using it, you will realize it, because it was like hard after you consume all of your arguments. It's like, yeah, just give it a try. You will realize like what it is. And he did, like he tried it out. And then he realized like it was adding a lot of value to their project where he works. Mm-hmm. And then he started blogging about like his journey of converting their monolith into like a Polylith, like step by step.
I don't think it was a monolith. He had like 20 services.
Like it was a monorepo, but several services. Yeah, so that helped us a lot in terms of recognition, let's say. Now we have like about 700 people in the Slack community.
Yeah.
That's very impressive.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the community, actually. Like, what are some cool things that you've heard of people doing with Polylith then?
I mean, one of them are using what's called those that's my cat. Can you hear my cat?
Yeah.
It's running.
Making a podcast appearance.
Is he on skis for some reason?
Yeah, you got it. Sounds like at least. So one, maybe I can open it. Are you still there?
Yeah, we're here.
Or maybe you can talk, Furkan. I can.
Yeah, we can't share screens though on this tool. No. It's a podcast. You can't share a screen. Okay.
Yeah, people won't see you, Jokke.
Yeah, just describe what's on your screen. That'll go well.
Yeah.
Read something from the internet.
Yeah,
I can read something random.
He's asking ChatGPT now, like, generate me project names that use Polylith.
I want. Okay, now I have it. So, for example, I think this was pretty cool. This Green Labs, they adopted Polylith in 2022 and have 93,000 lines of code, and they have like I think it's 50 Lambda functions.
Right. Okay. Yeah, makes sense.
Something like that. So I can see here. Yeah, not really 50, but I have the number here.
We don't need the exact number. Yeah. Okay. It could be 49, 52.
No, so they have. They have
52, 51. Okay. It's important to know.
Yeah.
So important. Yeah, and your project, Furkan, I think when you have switch between. I mean, when you switch to first you had a code base, and then you reuse maybe 70% of the components and build a total new product.
New product with the same components. Yeah, I mean, like we have like more than 300,000 lines now, like both Clojure and Clojure script, and it's all like Polylith components. So that's biggest. We talked when we came to Belgium for the conference, we talked to several groups of people. They said like they were using Polylith, and we were like, why didn't tell you? Why didn't tell us about this? Like we would be very happy if you told us before. So
I just use all my spare time working on this, but when I post something, I get 3 likes sometimes.
And there was like one group of people. I think they were working on big e-commerce system or whatever. Like with a lot of big team, they adopted Polylith, and then we didn't hear about this at all beforehand. And then they were like, we were not allowed to say much about it. It's like, okay, maybe only top secret projects use Polylith. So there might be thousands of companies actually. It's just only the best ones, top secret ones.
Yeah, absolutely. They're using all kinds of things, these top secret guys.
Yeah. Yeah, Sean uses, they have like, I think, quite a few of dating sites they run. So all of those use Polylith in the background.
So
nice. So
go on, Josh.
Go ahead, Ray.
No, I was going to say, we should maybe try to wrap up the Polylith discussion now. Because obviously we want to respect the time. We've been going for quite a minute. I've just looked and it's like, holy shit. Yeah. Yeah, but this has been really good. So maybe what would be if you were like pitching Polylith to someone who's starting a new project, what would be your like top 3, let's say, wins from using Polylith versus just starting out ad-libbing, ad hoc?
Should I say something? Yeah.
Go ahead.
You can both have a go. It's all fine.
For me, it's the development experience. It's just awesome to have a single REPL for all your services. You can work with all your services as it is a monolith. And then that you can easily change. You can split up service into 2 services very easily. You just add an extra base and then you split them up. So super. You can do things that will take a week in an hour. I mean, so just because, and I think that's maybe so.
1 or 2 is enough, actually. The 3 is always tricky. The third one is like the third album. It's always the tricky one.
I would
maybe Furkan can add.
I would add like one more thing to what you said is like the mind shift it gives to you. It's similar to like when you switch from Java to Clojure. It gives you a mind shift.
This is a big one.
yeah. I think so. I think so. It's like it forces you to think about your system. And then it gives you the communication tools that you can make that thinking, actually. Like when you have those like component spaces projects, then it forces you to think in those terms. And those result in better systems. So I think that's quite important. That's what I saw like in the teams that I worked with Polylith. Like, because people don't come to you with like, oh, I have this idea, I'm going to write this code or anything. They're coming to you as like, oh, we should do this component, or we should split this component into 2. Like they start to talk in those terms.
Right. So the communication between the team becomes a lot more straightforward. Yeah.
And I think I remember that you said that this also makes you faster. I asked you how much faster are you with Polylith with a code base that have like 1 or 2 or 300,000 lines of code? And you said you thought you were like twice as fast.
Yeah, I mean,
you said once.
It's always
it's hard to say, but at least some number of percentage more efficient because you can reason about the system more easily.
Exactly, because of that, it becomes easy. Even in the front end, like I've seen a lot of like TypeScript code bases, like even finding where a specific component you see on the screen becomes very hard. Here, it becomes much easier because it's much easier to look where in the code base and then like isolate that component, and then the functionality is there. So then you can start whatever you need to do right after that. So I think that increases the speed.
I think that is the good thing with like what you get with splitting up your code base in many services. That's the benefit. You have just one thing you work with.
You have isolation.
Here you have something. To have something smaller you go into, and you only need to think about that.
Yeah, and these are like much smaller pieces compared to those services, and also it's much simpler. Like it's just like one directory of names that you need to scan through. It's not like a tree or anything. It's just like one single depth.
Right, so it's quite a flat project of
it's flat, services, and like we got like so many like requests in the repo about making that not that flat. We always say no to those requests. We don't want to change that. Like it's so simple as it is. Why do you want to make it complicated?
That's such a Swedish attitude. Everything has to be flat. We have no hierarchy in Sweden.
It's a flat pack system. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a brilliant explanation of UKI, actually, Ray. I never put two and two together. Of course, it has to be Flatpak. Yeah. Yeah, but it's been really cool talking to both of you, and we really need to have another Clojure meetup in Stockholm. It feels like it's been a million years, but yeah, it would be really nice to meet both of you in person, and we can talk about Polylith more, and you can yell at me for not using it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before we let you go, though, there is a really important question that we haven't gotten to yet, and that is, of course, like, Furkan, are you using Emacs or some other shit?
Yeah, some other shit is my answer.
Oh no.
Yay!
Which other shit do you dare
I'm
reveal?
on 2aba8aeedf7d.
Oh,
Yes,
God.
okay.
Okay. Not
Okay.
quite the good
Yeah.
one, but okay.
Yeah.
Another Swede, you know.
Another
You're
Swede,
just
yeah.
addicted to the Swedish tech product, I see.
Yeah.
What about you, Jocke?
I use some other shit. I use cursive.
Yay! Yay! One for the cursive teams. Yeah.
I think that's because I have been working with Java so long, and I used cursive, so I got used to it. But it's pretty. It works well for me.
I think all the people I know, the people that come from a Java background, they've almost all used IntelliJ, and then cursive is, our sort of, we're cursed to use it literally. I think that's maybe where you got the name from. But yeah. Good.
So I guess.
Yeah, sorry, Josh, you lost every single time this time. I'm definitely going to try Polylith next week because they've got great editor choices as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. I don't know about that. See, I don't need Polylith because I have Emacs. So
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. Ray, you can do vibe coding next week with Polylith.
Oh wow!
Ooh.
Yeah, definitely. It probably is the only time I will ever use vibe coding. So yeah, fair enough. No, but maybe we should finish up with what kind of other. Maybe it's one of the, because we talked a little bit about the tools, the community, and all that kind of stuff. But maybe it's one thing that and your journey to Clojure. But maybe it's a sort of wrap up thing. Is like, what do you still really find interesting and exciting about Clojure itself?
Good question.
Take your time. Anyone can chime in.
I think for me it's because I have to work with other languages, and then it's always the REPL.
Yeah.
Working with a language without a REPL and where you don't have that fast feedback loop, it's just a pain. So I think it's the REPL that is always the best with Clojure. I think.
Yeah, but what gives you that excitement? What's going to be the next in Clojure, if that's the question? I would say
no, not really. No, it's like sometimes you just kind of you get surprised and delighted by a particular way you've solved a problem, or that it would be hard to solve a problem in another language, but you kind of you like the fact that you did this refactoring with CLJS. You just just a one-liner, and then bam, it's sort of fixed. Or like when you're refactoring your CLI tool, Joakim, over the sort of 12 months, maybe you suddenly think, oh yeah, actually, if this was in another language, this would have taken. I would never have done it, even. Or
yes, what I think what Clojure does is that it separates. What it does is that it separates data, and it uses immutable data and functions. And this is really important because then you can put things side by side. And you can just let your information flow. I think so. I think that's what Polylith also do with components, but that's another story. So, but I think that's what I like the most. also, except the REPL. But it's simplicity.
Yeah.
Is that everything is separated from start.
Yeah.
And it's also composable. So I think software should be composable.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I had to look into this like Golang code recently, and then like not being able to see that data is like really the big thing, I would say. Like you can't play with it, you can't mold it like right away. I mean, REPL helps there, but I think why REPL even works is also like we operate on the actual data, not something wraps it that hides it away from us.
Right.
So,
yeah, I mean, just to sort of add, for my thing, it's like JVM 21, where we can essentially get rid of most of like async code. Is I mean, like you were saying at the beginning, Joakim, relying on the VM might not be a bad thing. Turns out to be a very good thing. They've improved something. They've made life easier for us, and now suddenly we get kind of like thread stalling on I/O for free, which to me is like, oh yeah, this is super awesome. It's not really a closure thing as such, but the fact that we're in the environment makes it suddenly everything just becomes more straightforward again.
Yeah, it was a good choice. I think did it on top of the JVM.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. Well, thanks very much. And I'm hopefully people in the audience will either shout out that they love Polylith or give Polylith a try. And it's been a fantastic conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you for listening to this episode of DefN. And the awesome vegetarian music or the track is Melon Hamburger by Pizzeri. And the show's audio is mixed by Wouter Dullert. I'm pretty sure I butchered his name. Maybe you should insert your own name here, Dullert.
Wouter.
If you'd like to support us, please do check out our Patreon page. And you can show your appreciation to all the hard work or the lack of hard work that we're doing. And you can also catch up with either Ray, with me for some unexplainable reason. You want to interact with us, then do check us out on Slack, Clojurian Slack or Clojureverse, or on Zulip, or just at us at DefN Podcast on Twitter. Enjoy your day and see you in the next episode.
Valter will go and, start the podcast at the appropriate time, which is not always when we ask him to. Sometimes he just picks a different time just for fun. His fun, I think, our misery.